Hello team. How are you everyone? So, how many of you know about the performance testing? First of all, I just wanted to know. I know Naveen and Radhika from the performance background apart from these two. So, how many of them knows about the performance testing? Are you audible? I'm audible?
Yes, you are very much audible. The
Yeah, yeah,
team,
yeah, yeah. But here, in the performance, they didn't give me any access, but I know what is going on the performance. Not much of
Okay.
the non and not good idea, but I know what is going on.
Okay. Okay. I think the performance testing is new for everyone. So, okay, let's go. So first of all, I will explain you the what is the performance testing and why it is required um, for the applications level. Okay. So performance testing is nothing but it's a non-functional testing. We have two types of testing, right? One is functional testing and the another one is the non-functional testing. So what I understand from the functional testing, the functional team will test the application with a single user, but coming to the performance, we use to test with application with the multiple users. So that is the main difference. And whatever the functionality you use to test in the functional, we don't test those functionalities in the performance. Like for example, you are going to test with 100 scenarios in your functional testing, but coming to the performance, as per our critical business transactions are the scenarios, those we will test. We don't test those 100 scenarios. So that is the main difference. As I told you, like the functional, I mean, majorly this is the non-functional testing performed to evaluate the application performance under the load and the stress condition. I told you, right? We used to test with the multiple user load. So that is the main thing we used to test here. And coming to the first slide, so these are the slides I prepared. So I will share you at the end of the session to that mail chain so that everyone will have a look to this document. Okay. So this is all about the what is the functional performance testing and coming to the why the performance testing is required. Basically, it we used to measure in terms of like speed, stability, and the scalability. These three factors are major. I mean, important for us. Like, what is the speed? Speed is determining whether the application is responding quickly or not. Okay, that is the one. And the scalability, determining the maximum load of the software application can handles. Like for example, one application is supporting with 500 users, and that information you got to know from your SRE team, site reliable engineering team. Okay, and we should like we used to test with those 500 users the application is supporting. For example, we don't have such requirement, then we used to apply like 50 users, 100 users on the 500 users. In that way we used to test like how application is scalable, and that kind of I mean the stats we used to provide. And the next one is the stability, determining if the application is stable under the varying load. So we are applying the different loads, right? So we are varying our loads, then at that time how the application is behaving. So those factors we use to determines. Okay. These three factors are the major. Do you have any questions on these three parts? I mean, these three factors, guys?
No.
Okay, thank you for confirming. Okay, when to conduct the performance test? Okay, that is the major one. Once the application is functionally stable, then performance testing will be done. Basically, we don't do the performance testing if the scenarios are not certified from the functional team. So once the functional team certifies this functionality, then only we will go ahead with start our performance testing. That is the one. For example, the why the performance testing is required for the application, any application, why it is required. you know uh, we should verify the application behavior under the load and to avoid the business losses. Here the business losses, I will give you one example. Nowadays everyone most frequently use this Amazon and the Flipkart, right? For example, you try to log in with your user, and I try to log in to the Amazon or the Flipkart, and while logging into that process, it took around 5 minutes to log in. Okay, and at the time, how usually our end user, like how our we will feel like it is very difficult to log in. For just for login itself, it took 5 minutes, and why we need to use this Flipkart or the Amazon, and we will switch it to the other application. So avoid such kind of business losses. So performance testing is required. So how usually we will do, and we will try to test with the multiple users or the single user, then we will inform for this particular step is taking longer time, and we used to go with our monitoring tools. We used to know, right, how that transaction, that particular login transaction is taking time, and what kind of backend work is going on. So those kind of details we used to go with our monitoring tools. We do have our monitoring tools, but if we wanted to see that transaction, that login transaction, how much time it is taking, that those details we can give from our performance testing tools like JMeter or the load runner. But in the backend, what calls are taking slow for that transaction, we need to have the monitoring tools. So that is the main important. So in that monitoring tools, if you go and you can see like what kind of errors we are getting and what are the slow calls are happening for this transaction. Those kind of details we used to see, and we can share those details with the dev team, and again the dev team will work on that transaction and they will deploy the latest code, and after that we will start our performance testing, and before that the functional team will test. If the functionality is working fine, then our performance teams will come under the picture and they will start looking at that code. So this is the whole process we'll usually do. Okay, yeah. One more question. So I said there are few functional, the performance testing tools like Load Runner and the JMeter. Like without these tools, can't we perform our performance testing? Yes, we can perform, but in the realistic environment, application is accessed by the 500 users. Just for example, 500 people. To simulate the realistic environment, we require that 500 people, which is not possible, right? For example, now I'm testing with my user. I'm available. I can test with my user, but I wanted to test with the 10 more users. Then I need to take the help from the remaining 10 folks, and that is very difficult for us. So if we have our performance testing tool, we can create the multiple users. The JMeter is the one of the performance testing tool, and it's an open source tool. So we can simulate n number of ultimate load, like n number of user loads we can apply. So it looks like a real user. We can create the users there and we can apply. So in that way we used to work. So if we don't use the performance testing tools, like then a few constraints will stop us to conduct the performance testing without tool. Like those constraints are like accuracy, time, budget, resources. These are all the constraints will depends. So these are all the types of performance testings, like load testing, endurance testing, spike testing, stress testing, volume testing, scalability testing. So these are all the types of testing. Hello, guys, are you getting it, or you want me to explain again?
Yeah, we are getting.
Continue.
Okay, if any point of time, if you're not able to understand, please let me know. I will give you the real time scenario so that you will get it. At least you will get some idea on the performance testing. Okay, coming to these types of testing, the first one is the load testing. You know how usually the load testing will do. Usually we will do with the 100% of our load. Like how I said, the 100% of load. We know the production, right? The production. So for example, in the production, 100 people are using that application. So those 100 people, we can call it as here 100% load. So we used to test in the load testing 100% users. That 100% what we call, yeah, 100% load we used to test in the load testing. So that is the load test. all the tests to verify the application behavior, guys. But the different types of testing we used to run with the different loads and to identify the few things. I will explain the type of testing, how why need to do. And the few organizations like load testing will be done for 1 hour or the 2 hours. So most of the organization will do the load testing for 1 hour or 2 hours. So before starting your test, and we need to check like the what load we need to apply. Of course, if it is the load testing, then we used to run with 100% load with 1 hour or 2 hours. Basically, you need to get these information from your client side, or your BA team also can confirm how much time we need to run. But if no one, we no need to ask to anyone, we can directly go ahead and run with 1 hour or 2 hours based on your feasibility. So coming to the endurance test, we can call it as the endurance test or the soak test or the longevity test. Basically, verifying whether the application is available for the longer duration or not. So we have to design our endurance test with the normal load. Normal load means like 50 to 60% of the peak load. So I said if it is application having the production volume of the 100 users, and that is the 50 to 60%, then 50 users you can apply in this endurance test. And we need to run with this test with the longer duration. Like we used to run like 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, such a way that we used to run this endurance test. And major objective of this test is to identifying the memory leakages. So here, what is the memory leakage? For example, you opened any one task from your what we call, yeah, you opened any one task from your laptop. Like I'm opening my Chrome here. Okay, go to the task manager, and you can see some of the tasks are occupied here, right? So every task will occupy some memory. And if you don't close this window, then what happened? It will automatically it's open forever, right? So you open the other task and the other task, and you ran the multiple tests. At that time, your memory will be occupied, like 100% occupies. Then you can start seeing the memory leakage because there is no memory there. So in that case, the memory leakage will be occurs. So in that way, I can say the memory leakage. But
Samshir, could you please
yeah,
repeat it? I didn't understand like exactly.
okay. Just for example, you know, you open the multiple tasks from your the laptop, or you ran the multiple tests from your what we call from your tests. At that time, some memory will be occupied. I mean, you open any task, you ran any script, and if you are running some tests, means you need to have some memory, right? For example, in the old phones, without memory card, you can't take a single picture Excel. If you take one picture, then it will ask us, you don't have the SD card for that, if you remember. So if you have the memory card, so all the data will be stored in that memory card. So once the memory is full, then it won't get access to that memory card. You can't take the pictures as well, if you remember. So in that way, if you can't take the pictures and you can't save, that means the memory leakage will be happens. Basically, there is a concept called the GC, garbage collector, that will automatically drilled into our application, that automatically removes the unused reference variables, like unused processors of the task. Then the memory leakage won't happen. If it is won't happen, then memory leakage will happen. So that is the concept here.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
guys, did you understand, guys? If not, tell me, I will give you the other examples as well. Okay, I can consider there are no questions, so I'm moving ahead to the next type of testing, that is the spike testing. We have to test this application behavior like under the abnormal conditions. For example, your application is supporting with the previously I said 100% load, and we are testing with 200 users. and we used to apply like some spikes during the test duration. I mean, how you can replicate your spike testing, like you are running your test with 1 hour, and after 5 minutes you wanted to apply, for the first 10 minutes you ran with the 5 users, and after 10 minutes you need to apply 100 users. So at that time the spike will happens, right? 10 users to 100 users. So in that way we will replicate in the spike testing. And coming to the stress test. Stress test is to identifying the breaking point or the performance degradation points of the application. Like you can, breaking the application basically. For example, our application supports 100 users. Then we used to test with the 150 users and we can see whether the application is working fine or not. For example, when you tested at that time, you can see the lot of errors if you test with the 150 users, because our application is not supports, and you can see the lot of errors as well. In that way, you can identify. So that is one type of testing. And the volume testing. The volume testing is nothing but we are applying like the more than our load. I mean, this volume testing and this test testing are little similar. And coming to the scalability test, and we need to see the future uses. Like for example, there are two environments like west region and the east region, and how much scalable these two environments, like how much it supports, how long this user load will support that application, and how it will behaves if it is the more than our user load. Those kind of details we used to test here in the scalability testing. But majorly in the scalable, in the name itself is there, how much capacity is there. Like we used to do the scalability testing like two types, like the scale up or the scale down. Like uh, we can scale down the application also. We can two types, like the vertical scale down and the horizontal scale down. You can ignore, but you understand, right? How much capable, and for the future uses also how it is. For example, today it is 100 users, and the tomorrow and the day after tomorrow maybe it is 150%, right? How scalable the application is this. So those kind of details we used to test here in the scalability testing. Going to the next slides. So I told you the different types of testing, right? So the graphs would be this way. So the load testing, where is the load testing? See, yeah, the load testing, how usually we apply the loads, and the stress testing, how we used to apply the loads, and the endurance testing. This is the long duration, right? So this is the way you can see when we apply the loads, and you can see the user load in this way. The graphs are just for show you the example purpose. Okay, the phases of the performance testing. Like first of all, first one is the requirement gathering and the test planning, the test design and the development, test execution, test report and analysis, and the post tuning, the testing and analysis. I will give you the example. Requirement gathering. The first one is the requirement gathering. You know, in this part of the requirement gathering, we used to connect with the different teams to understand the application architecture, and what are the requirements we need to start the performance testing. I told you we used to test with the multiple users, right? The multiple users, for example, we are testing with the i9 application, and the i9 application supports like just for example 200 users, and we need that information, right? For that we used to connect with the team, like dev team, not dev team, the business ba team or the client, and we will get that information. That is the one requirement. But we need to have this other requirements also, like SLAs, the service level agreements. So this is also important. And another one is the TP, yes, or the TPH, anything is fine. The transaction per second or the transaction per hour. So these three are the major we need to get as part of the requirement gathering. Like coming to the the first one, the user. Like we used to go ahead and we'll ask, so the how much load we need to apply and what is the user load we need to test. So those kind of details we will get it. And coming to the TPS, the per second or the per hour, how much transactions we need to achieve. So those details we will get it. And another one, what I told you, TPS user load, and another one, hello,
TPH.
TPS is done. Okay. Not only these terms, we used to get it other factors as well, like how much system hardware configurations, like how much CPU we need to take it and how much memory we need to set up for this application. And do we have the performance environment? Like we do have the different kind of environments, like functional team will use to work for the QA, and dev teams will use to work in the dev environment, and the performance team used to work in the perform load environment. So those kind of environment we need to ask, like, do we have the performance environment? So if they say yes, then we need to work in the performance environment only. We no need to go with other environments, because the performance testing environment should be looks like the production environment. That should be the same. Otherwise, we can't go ahead and we don't test any of the tests. And coming to the test planning. So in the test planning, like what kind of test we use to test, like I told you, right, the different types of tests. So those kind, what kind of test we need to test, and how long time we need to test, and what are the performance in scope. I mean, what kind of scenarios we need to test as part of testing. So those kind of details we used to put it in the test plan. Of course, we need to give the entry criterias and exit criterias as well. Entry criteria means like or yeah, functionality should be stable. So functionality should be stable, and there are no code changes at the time, and environment should be stable. And I mean, we need to run one standard test and we can say like how the environment is. And exit criteria, so once we done the test and all the scripts should be run working fine and without any errors. So that is the exit criteria. Like the test design and the development. So the test design and the development means here we for example, you got to know about your performance testing scope. Like the one scope is, like I will tell you the one scenario, like we need to log into the Amazon and we need to select one product and we need to add to the cart. Yeah, once you select the product, will add to the cart, then we need to do the payment, and then after that we'll log off. So that is the one scenario, and that we need to test. That is the critical business scenario. That scenario we used to record it from our JMeter or the performance testing tool. You can take any tool, performance testing tools like Load Runner or the JMeter, and and you can record that scenario. And first of all, we need to check the manually whether it is working fine. Then we need to record the scenario, and I will tell you how we will record the scenario. Once it is done, I will show you. I will open my tool and I will show you how we can record and what are all the actions we can take. Okay. And after that, once the scripts are prepared, then we need to start the test execution. For example, the text execution means you can take any one of the type of load testing. Like if you take the load testing, like we used to run with 1 hour, right? So we can set up with that number of users, and we used to run the scenario with 2 hours. Then once the testing is over, then that script, I mean, the tool will generate one report. That is, I will show you. I will show you. So we need to we need to analyze. I mean, we need to analyze that report. Like for example, there are 5 transactions. I told you, right? So each transaction you are getting the response time of 2 seconds. Okay, first let me explain the response time. What is the response time? One, you are hitting one request and that is going to the server and you are getting the response from that server. So that is the round trip of the request, right? Though how much time that round trip is taking, that is, we can call it as the response time. Did you understand, guys? What is the response time? So that is the main factor for us. We used to share the response times to the client. We,
Ye-
you know, I'm just hitting www. Google.com. Once I hit, and this request will go to the server, and I got the response in this way. So this is the round trip of the request. And you can see how much time it took for the single user. I only applied this request, so that's why I'm the single user, right? You can see how long time it took, and you can see from the F12 developer tools. Most of you people know how much time it is took. One request contains the multiple sub requests. For example, if you take this is the request, and you can see like this time, right? So this is the request, the Google request. So 215 milliseconds it took to get the response. So this is, we can call it as the response time. But this is with the single users. We use test with the multiple users, and we can provide that response times to the team. To the client. So this is the 215 milliseconds it took. So this is, we can call it as the response times. Okay. So in that way, for example, there are 5 transactions. So each transaction took 2 seconds to get the response, each transaction. But our SLA is here, the SLA means a service level agreement. And that is also one factor we need to gather. We need to get it as part of the requirement gathering. And your client said our SLA is 0.5 seconds. But coming to your report, each transaction is getting the more than 2 seconds. So that is not expected, right? So at that time, we will highlight those transactions, which transaction is taking long time, and we can tell them like performance degradation transactions. So those transactions we will highlight, and we will raise the defect in the Jira. And after that, the team will we will assign the ticket to the dev team, and they will start working again. And once the code levels, fixes that defect, then again we will start testing. So we will check again, so whether we are meeting our SLA or not. So in that way, in the round way, the testing will happens. So in that part, we will analyze. And of course, in the analysis part only, I will go ahead with the monitoring tools, and monitoring tools like App Dynamics and the GCP. The most of our folks are using the GCP. The people who are working on the XFX, and they knows the GCP, Google Cloud Platform. And from there itself, we can see how that call is behaving, and what kind of errors we are getting, and why this call is taking, why this call taking the long time, and what kind of slow calls are happening, and those details we will get it. And we will share that details with the dev team, and with the help of that dev team will start working on that, and they will fix the issues, and again we will start the testing. So that is also comes under this tuning only. So once we analyze, and we will raise the defects, right? So, and after that, the post tuning, here the post tuning means once that the defect got resolved, then again we will start, and we will analyze the details. So this is how the performance testing phase will involves. Guys, understood?
Yes, Samshir. Got it.
Yeah, same shit.
Thank you for confirming. So this is the few things I pasted here as part of the requirement gathering, what kind of details we will gather. Like I told you, SLAs, the performance testing tools, the performance testing scenarios, the transaction modeling, the number of users, environment, and the application architecture and the types of the load testing. Majorly, we need to focus on the application architecture, guys. You know, the most of the people will blindly go ahead and they won't ask any application architecture. If you understand the application architecture, then you will understand how the calls are moving and the layer to layer wise. So we need to focus on the application architecture. We don't go blindly with the scenarios working. So the next slide is the test plan, the non-functional gathering inputs. Those inputs we are putting and we are getting the approvals. I mean, once everything is set up, then we need to get it approval from the several teams. So once they're done, then we'll start preparing our script. And once the testing is over, once the script execution is over, and we used to focus on the average response time. Most probably we used to focus only the response time. If you want, you can go with the average as well. If it is the two response time is 2 seconds, then the average is one. So this way. So what kind of errors we are getting, the transactions, did we achieve our TPH or not? So in the server side metrics means here the CPU and the memory utilizations. So during the test duration, before start your test, you need to check how much CPU and the memory is there. So once the testing is started, and you need to monitor and how the CPU and memory is behaving. And once the testing is over, how CPU and the memory is consumed. So those kind of details you can see. And once it is reaches its threshold, and automatically one mail also pop up to the team. And if there is no such functionality, then you can also inform to your team. So our CPU and memory is increasing more than our threshold. So for that we are getting these errors as well. You can show everything. So I explained previously the functional testing and the non-functional testing differences as well here. So I told you, right, the different performance testing tools. So these are all the tools like the load runner, Apache JMeter, the Neo load, uh, App Perfect, Gatling, and RPT. So these are the performance testing tool, but majority of the market share on the performance testing tool on this load runner. And the next popular tool is the Apache JMeter. So the JMeter is the open source tool basically. And the load runner, it's a paid tool. Only you can use the 50 users free, and after that you need to pay for the license for each user. So if there is a the cost cutting environment in your application, then most of the people will go ahead with the JMeter. So it's an open source tool, so anyone can download this tool and they can utilize, and there is such no restrictions using the number of users. So it is unlimited. So you can use any n number of users here with the help of the JMeter. So these are all the study materials I pasted here. So you can go through these links. I will share you once the demo is over. I will share these documents to our mail chain. So any questions, guys?
So like Shamshir, like I have some questions. Like
Yeah.
can we apply the load testing or else the performance testing on the databases? So before getting into the applications, so if we have the issues related from the database, so we can clear that one. So how will be like we'll be executing those databases, and what are the basic requirements we need to perform those type of database executions?
Okay. To answer to your question, there are different ways of testing, like a web-based testing, application, API-based testing, and the database testing. So far in my experience, I did not experience this database testing. I have experience with only the web-based and the API-based applications, and the batch-based as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like coming to the APIs also, like for example, if we have authentication type based APIs, So for
Okay.
example, we are using to get 100 users or like 150 number of users at a time. So how are we going to pass these bearer tokens into those performance testing?
That part will comes under the regular expression basically. How we used to do, that is comes under the correlation part. Okay.
Okay.
uh, if you take the JMeter, uh, I will answer your question once I will navigate the JMeter, right? So at that time I will show you how we can use and how we can correlate that value, and we can send how in the subsequent request I will tell you. But to give you the answer, there is a concept called the correlation. So every time the correlation is nothing but it's a dynamic value. So every time one dynamic value generated by the server. So we need to capture that value and we need to send it in the subsequent request. Otherwise, the subsequent request won't work. So because the subsequent request contains this authentication token. So if you don't send the token, those next request won't work. So that's why we need to put that which request response is generating the token. In that particular token, we need to put the regular expression with the help of the boundary extractor or the regular expression extractor. In that, you can write one regular expression. Anyone, I mean, everyone knows about the regular expression. In my experience, I think dev people knows about the regular expression. I'm not sure about the functionality. So you can directly replace with the dot star question mark in that regular expression. Then you can send and you can capture that request, and you can the captured value you can send it in the next request. So once it is expired, the new value will be generated. So in that way we can handle it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Got it.
will I will I will show you. I will show you. No issues. But I
Mm.
don't have any APIs. For example, if you have the Postman, then I will show you the demo on that API collection as well.
Yeah, sure. I'll let you know like if I'm having any.
Okay. Yeah. Guys, if you are anyone having the interest and that how we can prepare the script, and you can, I mean, we can connect the next session so that I can prepare with my postman collection, so that I can start script and I will show you and I will run one execution and I will tell you how we can analyze. If anyone having the interest, then definitely I will do one demo on this. Definitely. Okay, guys, any other questions? Please ask the questions, no problem.
I'm having one more question, Shamsher. Sorry to
Yeah.
disturb you. Like,
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
so for example, like in an application, so for example, we have automated the functionality of the application by using Selenium and Java. Is there any chance to execute those Selenium scripts? Like we have an end-to-end script which was mentioned in Java. So to get the time constraint, so what we are planning to do is like, for example, I want to execute. I will give the entire my functional automation jar file, which needs to be run using the JMeter. Is it possible to run like that?
Yeah, I will show you. What is the script extension for your Java? I mean, your script.
I can give you like a jar file is fine for me. I can give you a jar file for my code. Basically, we will be using Cucumber and Java. So dot Java is the like basic thing what we are following.
Okay. We can
So
convert your Selenium script into the JMeter, and this is the one URL I'm
okay,
pinging in the call chat, and directly you can convert your scripts into the JMX. The JMX is nothing but it's a JMeter script extension names. So you can start uploading your script here and you can directly convert to the JMX. Our JMeter will support the JMX and the script extension also JMX. So you can directly open there. And if the script won't work and you need to check like your correlation values and the parameterization values so that your
okay,
script will work. Yeah, of course we can do. So this is
okay.
the one URL. This is useful for them for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I have other document as well. I will show you. So I told you, right, that the JMeter, the performance testing tool, it's a open source tool. Okay. So this is all about the JMeter. So here I explained like the what is the JMeter, like it's a open source tool. Basically, this JMeter is built with the help of the Java. The 100% Java code they used and they built the application. So it supports like static and dynamic resources, and it supports like the different protocols, and these are all the protocols it supports, and we can integrate our the JMeter with the Jenkins. So Jenkins is it's a CI/CD pipeline, right? So automatic uh, deployment and integration tool. So we can integrate our tool JMeter tool to what we call to the Jenkins as well. So the document also I have, I will explain you. So if you wanted to download the JMeter, then you should have the JDK 8 plus in your laptop, then only the JMeter will support. So if you don't have the Java, then it won't work, and it should be the JDK 8 plus. So how you can download the JMeter? You can directly go to your browser. JMeter. From here, you can see there are two kinds of URLs. Yes. So the binaries and the source. So you require this binary, so you can start downloading this zip file. So once it is downloaded, then so I downloaded, and after that I zipped. And from here you need to go to the JMeter, and you can open this bin folder, and from here you can see one bat file. So you need to open your bat file. So the JMeter bat file. So this is the one. So Windows batch file. So we can double click on this. The JMeter will opens like this. So everything I mentioned here, how you can download, you can go through it so that you'll understand. So the once you extracted, then what kind of I mean which file you need to click. So those things also I have mentioned here. So advantages of the JMeter. So it's an open source tool. So that is the main advantage, and the friendly GUI and the non-GUI mode as well. It's a platform independent, so you can use anywhere. So and it generates good results, and the reporting also very good. So that is one advantage. So the JMeter elements. So I need to explain these things so that you can get some idea. You know, I will quickly wind up. So the first of all, from here, this is the JMeter, guys. So if you wanted to change this the what we call interface, then directly you can change this, like from here, the look and feel. From the options you can see the look and feel. Directly you can change it to the Windows Classic, so that you can see like this. So it will ask you to restart JMeter, but it not required it. We don't have the much time as well. So from here, I mean everything is we know. I mean nothing much to explain here. These options I will explain from here. Like this is the new. If you wanted to, I mean there are multiple thread groups. Then if you wanted to open any new one, then you can directly click on this new. And there are few templates. With the help of the templates, you can easily record your scripts. So from here, I can take one template called the recording template. We need to record our scenario, that manual scenario from the browser. So that's why I'm taking the recording template. So I'm clicking on the create, and I'm removing this. If you know the host name, then you can directly use your host, and you are recording, right? You need to save those results in somewhere else. So that's why here the recording.xml is automatically given. I'm removing everything. I don't want anything, and I will give everything manually. So if your schema is HTTPS the secure, then you can directly give here. Then click on the create. Then here you can see these kind of details. So this is the call, this is the test plan. Basically this test plan is nothing but, for example, you can take one file, the file for I mean, you have the n number of certificate, but you wanted to store that those certificates in somewhere else. You can't keep it those certificates in handy, right? So for that we used to take the files. So this is the main one. So in the test plan, everything would be there. So the first one is the user defined variables. So user defined variables can be used across the test plan. Like for example, you have given your schema here. So if you give any HTTP request in this is the sample HTTP request. So here you no need to give your HTTPS because it is already given in the user defined variable. So it will automatically take it. Okay. If you want, you can directly give the schema, copy in the form of this way. This way. So we can send, you can declare any variable and you can use that variables in the in all the requests. So that is all about the what we call this user defined variable. And coming to the HTTP request defaulter. So this is the main one, guys. You can use this the user defined variable or not, but if you give any of the values and you don't need to give any of the values in the HTTP request, so automatically it will pick it from here only. For example, you have the base URL. So you can give your base URL here and you can no need to give any path because the remaining path would be the changes uh, uh, in the subsequent request, right? Only the base URL will be the constant one. So you can give your constant URL. So that constant URL automatically pick up here. So you know it, and one while you are recording, it would be the blank because it is already there in the top of the request. For example, you need to run your test in the dev environment and the performance environment, and you prepared your script for performance environment. And what at that time, what you need to do, you need to change your URL if you wanted to make it work in the dev environment. So at that time, this is the easier way. So you can directly change your main URL here, base URL. So automatically that reflect in the next request. So you know need to you no need to go with the, each request, and you no need to change your base URL. So this is the one, it will how it will useful. So not only this one, you can use the port number as well. And cookie manager, yeah, it stores and send the cookies like the cookie browser only. So this is also same. So if you wanted to run with the multiple iteration and you wanted to clear the cookies, then you need to select this cookies. So it every time it will act like a new session. And the thread group. Thread group is a script basically which holds the test elements. The test elements like here you can see these are all the options, right? Samplers, logic controllers, preprocessors, post-processor assertions, timers, test fragments, config elements, listeners. So these are all the elements it will hold this the test the thread group. And we can see the recording controller as well, the test script recorder. So with the help of this test script recorder, we used to record our communication via browser. So for that, we need to set up one port. So whatever the port number I'm giving here, if let me enable Control T. Okay, whatever the port number I'm giving here, so that port number should be same in the browser. Here, settings, proxy. You can give your local host. Whatever the port number you have given in the JMeter, that port number should be the same. So why it is same? If it is the same, so whatever the communication is happening from the browser, that communication will be catch this JMeter. And we need to set up the certificate as well. Otherwise, the calls won't read. So we need to install a certificate. Certificate. And that certificate is generated by our JMeter. And I will show you how we can generate the certificate. Click on the start button here. Hello. So see, the root CA certificate Apache JMeter temporary root CA is generated. So I'm stopping here and I'm going to my JMeter folder. Here you can see, right, the JMeter root certificate. It is generated just now, 3:53 p.m. So I need to configure that certificate in the browser. Which browser we are using? In that browser we need to use. From the root certificate, trusted roots, we need to upload, import. Next, and that certificate is valid for 1 week. So every time we need to, once it is expired, we need to upload the new one. Otherwise it won't work. So if you wanted to see how long time it will useful, and I mean it we can use, and expiration date also it provided 10/14/2020. You can close it. Now you can start your application recording. You can come here and you can take any HTTP request. Not required. So recording, I'm using the recording controller. So from here you can come, which one target. You can see the target controller, right? Use the recording controller. If you wanted to give the other one, then you can give it. Like I can take the transaction controller, and in that transaction controller I used to keep all the calls. So here you can see the transaction controller and the target. So wherever you wanted to record, and you can create a folder there and you can record in that particular controller. So here, so whatever the calls will go, and it will save in this transaction controller. So if you wanted to give the naming convention properly, then you can use the suffix or the prefix that the transaction names. So whatever the thing you are fusible, and then you can use it. I will use the suffix, and I'm clicking on the start button, going to the application, and it should be open. Otherwise, if you click on the stop button, then it will JMeter will be stops. And you can go this one browser, and you can so I wanted to test this Facebook now. So I have entered this Facebook. So now we'll see. So JMeter, the Facebook calls are recorded or not. See. So this is not our URL. This is the Google. So I can ignore that one. And our exact calls are there or not. So see, this is the one, the Facebook. We sent the request to the server, right? So we recorded. So this way we can handle, we used to record the script, and just to show you, just for example, see, this is our, just to show you. So this is the SUG key. This is not our actual application. We need to test. This is the Google API call, but just to show you how we used to go with the next further actions. So this is the actual request, just for example. And this SUG key is generated this value, and you recorded twice and you got it. This key is repeating, dynamic. Every time it is dynamic. So at that time, what you need to do, you need to see this key where it is generating, which request response. Most probably on the top of the request response, you will capture this value and the SUG key value, and you can correlate that value. For example, this request response generating that this value, not exact value, This is the dynamic value. Though you identified this SUG key is generating this request response. In that particular request response, you need to put like uh, post processor. Post processor basically once the response is got from that particular request, from there we need to capture the values. So for that we'll use any of the post processor. Once it is processed, we will get the info from that particular the request. So I'm taking these two are the main here. One is the boundary extractor and another one is the regular expression extractor. And I will take this regular expression extractor, and for this response I will take that value. That expression is like this, just for example. And I wanted to capture this value. So at that place, I will use dot star question mark, and I will give the proper naming convention. SUG key 1. Why I'm giving 1? You know how many groups we have? We have only the one group we are capturing. For example, if we have the multiple groups, then we can use as per our multiple group section part number. But we have the one group, so I am giving the 1 here. And the match number is 0 for random. So the match number is I used to give 1. So the whatever the first occurrence it is identified in this particular request response, this action is identifying in the multiple times. So I wanted to capture the first occurrence value. So I have given the first occurrence. If you wanted to capture any of the value randomly, then you can directly use 0. And if this expression won't work, then it will throws an error like SUG key is not found. So whatever you wanted to know, I mean send, you can write it here. And SUG key just, yeah, this way. So once we capture this value, so where it is generating, where it is going in the input, so this way here it is going. So we need to replace with SUG key. So whatever the value it is captured on the top of the request, we are sending in the input form. So this way we can handle the correlation. Okay. Guys, understood? Hello.
Yes, Shamshir. Yeah, understood.
So
Yes, I'm sure.
yeah, to answer to your question. So previous I showed you, right? So this way we can handle it. So for example, this is the authentication call, and you identified that token is generating this request response, the token is generating. You'll copy the token and you can use this regular expression extractor, and you can correlate that value and you can send it in the subsequent request. So wherever that request response is going, and most of the times that authentication token will be go into this headers only. So wherever it is going, and you can see, and you can replace with that parameter name, so that your next request will be work. So in this way we can handle it.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, I'm good. When if I explain, then it would be the I mean there are so many concepts to explain, so I will stop. I will stop it here. And if I get the time, then I will explain. I will start preparing one script and I will show you guys. So if I get the time. So this is all about the JMeter.
Mm,
If you don't have any questions, then we can drop off. Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank
thank
you,
you,
Shamshir.
Shamshir.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Shamsher.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.